Hello and a very good morning. You're watching the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha television with me, Frank Pereira. Let's begin as always with the latest headlines. Union Cabinet not to contest Bombay High Court ruling that gave relief to Vodafone on a 3,200 crore rupees tax demand in a transfer pricing case. All set for Coal India stake sale today. Government targets 24,000 crore rupees through divestment of 10% stake in the blue chip company. PDP BJP strike seat sharing agreement for Rajya Sabha. Poll indicate that parties are inching closer to forming government in Jammu and Kashmir. Sujata Singh's tenure as Foreign Secretary curtailed with immediate effect. Serving Indian Ambassador to the United States, Subramaniam Jaishankar, moved as Foreign Secretary. And at the Australian Open, the semi-final lineup is ready. Sania Mirza and Leander Paes are through with both winning their mixed doubles quarter-final matches. Our top focus on the bulletin this morning. Another big signal to the foreign investors has been made. The cabinet decided yesterday that the government will not challenge a court's decision favouring Vodafone in the 3,200 crore rupees tax case. The relief to Vodafone comes as another message to foreign investors of a non-adversarial tax regime. Here's more.
A shot in the arm for the cause of foreign institutional investment. Vodafone, which is the biggest foreign corporate investor in India, has been involved in a series of tax disputes since it entered the country 7 years ago. In one such case, a unit of the British group was accused of underpricing shares in a rights issue to its parent company. It was ordered to pay tax of about 3,200 crore rupees. In October, the Bombay High Court had ruled in favour of Vodafone, and later the Attorney General had recommended the government to refrain from appealing that ruling in the Supreme Court.
By the Cabinet taking a decision not to challenge the Supreme Court order upholding the Vodafone India Limited contention that a transaction being international is not amenable to tax, this was basically in their books as capital receipts. A kind of signals we have given, namely where the income tax liability is clear, unambiguous, it shall be charged.
Wooing the foreign investor has been a major thrust of the government so far, and the latest decision on the Vodafone case is certain to spur sentiment.
The government led by Shri Narendra Modi as Prime Minister wants to convey a clear message to the investors world over that this is a government where the decisions will be fair, transparent, and within the four corners of law.
Retrospective taxation brought in by the UPA government had raised concern on the consistency of tax policies. The new government looks for a more populist way out. A similar approach is to be adopted in transfer pricing litigations involving other MNCs like Shell. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Well, joining me for a chat this morning on this very subject and much more that we're going to discuss here over the next 10 or 15 minutes is Senior Editor of the Economic Times, Himanshu Watts. Very good morning, Himanshu, and thanks for joining me on the program. You know, the government has decided not to challenge the Bombay High Court's order as far as the Vodafone tax issue is concerned. Now, is this a signal that is being sent out by the Prime Minister-led Narendra Modi government to foreign investors that India is going to be far more investor-friendly?
Yes, it's a very strong signal, and the first indication of that came when President Obama was here. So in the Indo-US CEO's meeting, our Prime Minister very clearly said that we want a stable and a competitive tax regime, and he said some of the things that went wrong have been undone and we are in the process of setting the other things right. Now this is a very, very important signal for the investors, because one thing an investor does not like, domestic or foreign, is uncertainty. You know, what they want is, okay, these are the problems, these are the good things, and based on that, they'll make an investment decision. Now, if suddenly there's a change, that really, really upsets them. And when this government is in a mission for Make in India, they want more foreign investment, they want funds to flow in infrastructure, I think this is a very important signal which everybody across the spectrum of investors wanted.
Was it on expected lines, do you think? I mean, as far as the kind of signals that the government had been sending out?
It was expected. It was expected. There were doubts whether, you know, the government would be seen to be foregoing some potential revenue. But I think on the balance, what the government has decided is that, okay, some tax revenue which you claim is lost, but the gains from better investor confidence far, far outweigh these concerns. So this was expected from a government that really wants to kickstart the economy and wants investors to come in.
All right. Now, in another decision, of course, in yesterday's meeting, the cabinet approved a base price of 3,705 crore rupees per megahertz for 3G spectrum auction. Earlier, the Interministerial Panel Telecom Commission had suggested the same base price for the upcoming auction scheduled for March 4th. The move would help the government garner over 1 lakh crore rupees along with sale of other mobile frequencies, making it the biggest ever spectrum sale. It's the fifth such sale of airwaves needed by the telecom firms to offer wireless data and mobile services in the country. Last week, the cabinet had approved swapping of 15 megahertz of 3G spectrum between defense and the telecom ministry.
हमने इस बार जो रिजर्व प्राइस तय किया है वो हमने तय किया है पर मेगाहर्ट्ज 3,705 करोड़ 3 मेगाहर्ट्ज टू 40 गीगाहर्ट्ज के बीच में we had identified 49 frequency bands. Out of these, 9 bands have been identified for exclusive defense use. 31 bands have been identified where defense use will coexist with space, with civil aviation, information broadcasting, telecom and meteorological department.
Himanshu, now talking about the 3G spectrum, issue, as far as this is concerned, the government is trying to, make 1 lakh crore rupees out of this. Now, is that an achievable target? Because several of the industry experts are saying that there are not enough airwaves as far as 3G is concerned.
See, the industry's view is always, they want spectrum to be cheaper. They don't want the government to use this as a revenue-raising exercise. But on the balance, this is a huge telecom market. There's a huge demand for it, and I think an auction is the most fair and transparent way to go about it. The amount to be raised is probably going to come in batches. It's not a one-shot thing. So it has been staggered and moderated. So I think it's a good decision. There might be some implication on telecom costs, but it's a very competitive market. So I'm quite fine with it.
Okay. Now, there was another important decision, of course, that the central government is all set to sell a stake of up to 10% in state-owned miner Coal India Limited. The sale of over 63 crore shares in the blue chip company is expected to mop up around 24,000 crore rupees at current market price. A stock exchange circular disclosed that the government will sell 5% stake or over 31 crore shares with an option to sell an additional 5% stake. Coal India is the second company to hit markets under the government's disinvestment program. Now, in December, it sold 5% stake in SAIL to garner over 1,700 crore rupees. The government is targeting 43,425 crore rupees through disinvestment in PSUs in the current fiscal. Himanshu, let's talk about the sale of shares as far as Coal India is concerned. Now, explain to us what it is and how is this disinvestment really going to happen, because we're looking at 10%, but it's not going to be 10% straight off the shelf, is it?
Yeah, it's the first thing is there's going to be a separate window on the Bombay Stock Exchange and the National Stock Exchange, which will open. There's an option of, I think, some particular number of shares and the option to increase it, which I think is what it will finally raise. This is a very important decision on two counts. One, of course, is the revenue. There's a huge number which will perhaps meet 1/3 of the target by just one CS alone. The second is, this is one disinvestment which had strong union opposition. And, when there was a Coal India strike a month ago, during the course of negotiation, even this was discussed. So this is now going ahead without any strike or, strong labor opposition. So it also signals to some extent the acceptance of a long process that's been going on for a long time by the unions. Government has given an assurance that the company will not be privatized. So far it was 10%, now it will be another 10%. It's very important for the government's revenue. And particularly it comes at a time when, every day you read reports about the stock market reaching a new high.
Yes.
Now, this is the time when India should actually encash whenever there is a stake sale involved. So the timing is pretty good. There are other issues that might come in the power sector, ONGC. I'm not too sure about that. Perhaps ONGC is not a very good time when oil prices have halved in the last year. But Coal India, I think, if you're getting good value without union opposition, is a very positive step forward.
As far as the government's target of 43,000 and change is concerned, almost 44,000 crore rupees as far as offloading private sector shares are concerned, do you think we are on course to achieve that with this?
It certainly marks a very significant step towards that target. We'll know very soon what's the market response, how the institutional investors respond to that. And I also think the government is not going to make a complete obsession that this particular target has to be met, because revenue has been coming from other streams. For example, when oil prices fell so much, the government also increased the tax on that. So you might get 15 to 20,000 crores from that itself, which is an unexpected bonanza. So I think the government strategy seems to be where there is a good value, where you can sell stake like Coal India, go ahead and do it. If there are problems in some stocks, I don't think there's going to be a desperation that we have to sell it. But certainly Coal India is, one shot big step forward towards that target, which increases the probability of meeting it.
So, as far as the future is concerned, do you see any more such, such moves being taken by the government to try and achieve that target of 44,000 crores?
I think there could be one or two more disinvestments. They have a few companies in mind. The way they've gone about it in SAIL as well as in Coal India, one fine day there's a sudden announcement, after 2 days there's a sale and the process is completed. So it's a very quick go and do it kind of a style. So, and we still have, another 2 months of this fiscal year. So one could expect.
All right. We'll have to leave to that. Thank you so much, Himanshu Vats, for joining us on the program this morning and sharing your views on several of those subjects that we spoke about. On that note, of course, we'll slip into a short break here, but still to come, the Congress and the BJP have roped in the big names as far as the Delhi election campaign is concerned, and they're going to enter into top gear. We'll bring you all that and much more on the other side. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Watch the world come alive in your living room. Defining moments. Momentous events. News Tonight, your window to the world. Every night at 9.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. Let's take a look now at some news-making events lined up for today in our special segment, The Day Ahead. The Beating the Retreat ceremony will be held today at Vijay Chowk, marking the culmination of the 4-day-long Republic Day celebrations. This year, 15 military bands, 18 pipes and drums bands from regimental centres and battalions are participating in the ceremony. Besides, one each of the Indian Navy and Indian Air Force band will also form part of the event. The Indian tunes will be the flavour of the ceremony, which has emerged as an event of national pride over the years. The national capital is set to witness some intense campaigning today. Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi is scheduled to hold a mega rally in Seelampur area of Delhi this afternoon. Senior state party leaders will be accompanying Rahul Gandhi in the rally, which aims to boost the party's fortune in East and Northeast Delhi. BJP's Chief Ministerial candidate Kiran Bedi will be holding a roadshow in New Delhi, the constituency of Arvind Kejriwal. Kejriwal himself will be holding public meetings in Mangolpuri and Kirari, while his party member actor Gulpanag will be holding a bike rally from Shastri Nagar to Inderlok metro stations. Despite the Supreme Court effectively barring N. Srinivasan from contesting the BCCI presidential polls, he will be chairing the all-powerful ICC board meeting in Dubai today. The two-day meeting will be held at the ICC headquarters in Dubai and will be attended by all board members, which comprise of nominated representatives of each of the 10 full members plus 3 elected associate member representatives. Also present will be the ICC President and the ICC Chief Executive. Going on now, the Appointments Committee of the Cabinet late yesterday announced the ending of Foreign Secretary Sujata Singh's tenure with immediate effect. India's ambassador to the United States, Subramaniam Jaishankar, will be the new Foreign Secretary. He takes over today. Sujata Singh is being removed from the post 8 months before she was due to retire. There had been talk of a change for some time. The decision was finally taken to remove her after the Obama visit. Reports say that the new Foreign Secretary Jaishankar was earlier needed in Washington to lay the groundwork for Obama's visit to India. Several ambassadorial and joint secretary changes are waiting to be made. Among the first decisions will be to appoint a successor to Jaishankar in Washington, D.C. Raging controversies, feverish campaigning and vicious attacks and counterattacks. That's what the elections in Delhi are turning out to be about. With just 10 days to go for polling, it is reaching a crescendo. Here's a look at the day's political activity in Delhi.
As the fight for supremacy between Aam Aadmi Party and the BJP reaches a feverish pitch, leaders are leaving nothing to chance. Alleging that opposition parties are plotting to run fake sting operations and false stories to malign his party's candidates, our leader Arvind Kejriwal said he would approach the Election Commission.
अभी भी हमें जानकारी मिली है कि विरोधी पार्टियां आम आदमी पार्टी के खिलाफ अगले कुछ दिनों में आम आदमी पार्टी के कैंडिडेट्स के खिलाफ इसी तरह से कुछ फर्जी आरोप लगाने वाली हैं। हम इलेक्शन कमीशन के पास भी जाएंगे कि जिस तरह से इन लोगों ने पिछली बार बदमाशी की थी, दोबारा बदमाशी करने की ये लोग कोशिश करेंगे, तो इसके ऊपर नजर रखे और अगर किसी भी पार्टी के किसी भी कैंडिडेट के खिलाफ इस तरह का मामला होता है तो इसी की परमिशन के बिना वो दिखाया ना जाए।
Even though Kejriwal did not name the said leader, the BJP reacted sharply to the comment.
This is classically a case of what you call in Hindi, chor ki daadhi mein tinka. Now, how does Mr. Kejriwal know? How can he preempt that there are going to be sting operations against their candidate? That means their candidates must be doing something wrong somewhere and that they have been caught. Who taught Delhi the sting game?
Meanwhile, in a bid to extend its gains in the national capital, the BJP has asked Finance Minister Arun Jaitley to monitor the campaign for Delhi. In fact, the party has given the responsibility of different areas of Delhi to several central ministers. The division has been done keeping in mind the demography of the area.
जो कार्यकर्ता की जहां पर ज्यादा उपयोगिता है उस कार्यकर्ता को उस बात का ध्यान रख करके और उसकी योजना हुई है.
Trying to make a comeback, the Congress too has announced senior leaders as in charges of different constituencies. Prominent among them are former cabinet minister Salman Khurshid and Anand Sharma, who've been given charge of Northeast Delhi and New Delhi constituencies. Former Chief Ministers Bhupinder Singh Hooda and Ashok Gehlot have also been roped in by the party. They will be taking care of South Delhi and Chandni Chowk constituencies. The Congress has not only brought senior leaders to the forefront, it has also come up with a draft bill promising housing and property rights to slum dwellers in the national capital.
जितने भी परिवार हैं, हर परिवार को एक ड्वेलिंग यूनिट 25 स्क्वायर मीटर से लेके 40 स्क्वायर मीटर तक के उसको मिले, उसकी गारंटी सुनिश्चित करेगा.
Delhi's date with destiny is on the 7th of February. The result will be out 3 days later on the 10th. Whether these promises hold up and whether they affect the fortunes of parties will be clear then. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, the air over government formation in Jammu and Kashmir seems to be clearing up, with both the PDP and the BJP announcing that they will be contesting 2 seats each of the 4 Rajya Sabha vacancies going to polls on the 7th of February. Both parties have decided not to field candidates against each other. Here's more.
The 2 biggest parties of Jammu and Kashmir, the PDP and the BJP, are inching towards forming the government in the state. Indicating this is the seat-sharing agreement that both have agreed for the Rajya Sabha elections on 7th of February.
कुछ अनौपचारिक स्तर पर पीडीपी के साथ बातचीत चल रही है। सकारात्मक प्रगति बातचीत में है और हमें लगता है कि 2-3 मुद्दों पर और स्पष्टता आने की आवश्यकता है।
The PDP named Nazir Ahmed Lave and Fayaz Ahmed for 2 of the 4 seats, while the BJP is nominating Shamsher Singh Manhas and Chandir Mohan Sharma.
एक स्ट्रक्चर डायलॉग की जरूरत है, थोड़ी देर में मेरे ख्याल में वो भी शुरू हो जाएगा ताकि एक कॉमन मिनिमम प्रोग्राम को बना के अगली हुकूमत जो है वो उसकी बुनियाद पे काम कर सके।
National Conference leader Omar Abdullah hit out at the BJP-PDP alliance for the Rajya Sabha polls. He said both parties should announce it for the state too. The National Conference is backing Ghulam Nabi Azad as the joint candidate with the Congress for the Rajya Sabha elections.
Insofar as the policies and programs and principles are concerned, the Congress Party and National Conference have been together since much before the independence.
The 4 members whose terms expire on 15th of February are Congress leaders Ghulam Nabi Azad and Saifuddin Soz and National Conference leaders Ghulam Nabi Wani and Mohammad Shafi. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, on to some international news now. Cleanup operations are underway in northeastern US a day after a blizzard dumped over 20 inches of snow in affected areas. Parts of Boston and surrounding New England state continue to grapple with the after effects, including coastal flooding and the impact on normal life. Boston area trains, buses and subways are set to resume, but massive delays persist because of heavy snow. Some commuters witnessed icy conditions on their trek to bus stops and subways. A statewide travel ban was scheduled to be lifted at midnight, but Massachusetts residents were urged to stay off the roads if possible. Here's a look now at news and updates from around the globe in our World Wrap. 2 Israeli soldiers and a Spanish peacekeeper were killed on Wednesday in an exchange of fire between Hezbollah and Israel, one of the most violent clashes between the two sides since a 2006 war. The soldiers were killed when Hezbollah fired 5 missiles at a convoy of Israeli military vehicles on the frontier with Lebanon. The peacekeeper serving with a UN monitoring force in southern Lebanon was killed as Israel responded with airstrikes and artillery fire. Russia has blamed Kiev for a surge in violence in southeastern Ukraine and urged the West not to show its support with actions such as imposing new sanctions on Moscow. Russia has denied sending arms and troops to back the rebels, and Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said the separatists were responding to attacks by Ukrainian government forces. The United Nations Human Rights Office said that 262 people had been killed in fighting in East Ukraine over the last 9 days since a ceasefire agreement was reached last September. Russia on Wednesday confirmed that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un will attend World War II ceremonies in Moscow in May. The trip would be Kim's first foreign visit since taking part in the reclusive state in 2011, succeeding his father Kim Jong-il, who died suddenly and is likely to come before he visits China, the North's main ally. North Korea and Russia have been looking to boost ties. China and Russia have both voted with the UN Security Council for sanctions on the North for its nuclear and missile tests. US technology giant Apple on Wednesday reported the biggest quarterly profit ever made by a public company. Apple reported a net profit of $18 billion in its fiscal first quarter, which tops the $15.9 billion made by ExxonMobil in the second quarter of 2012. Record sales of iPhones were behind the surge in profits. Apple sold 75.5 million iPhones in the 3 months to December 27th, well ahead of most analysts' expectations. Well, let's take a look now at how the global stock markets are doing. US stocks fell sharply on Wednesday after the Federal Reserve said that the domestic economy was growing at a solid pace, signaling it remains on track to raise interest rates later this year. In the US markets, the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 195.84 points or 1.13% to end the business at 17,191. Standard & Poor's 500 lost 27.39 points or 1.35% to close the day at 2002. The Nasdaq Composite dropped 43.50 points or 0.93% to finish at 4,637. Meanwhile, snapping its two-day losing streak, gold prices on Wednesday rebounded by 120 rupees or 0.35% to 28,420 per 10 grams on revival of buying by jewelers to meet ongoing wedding season demand. Silver also recovered by 120 rupees or 0.38% to 39,520 per kilogram on increased offtake by industrial units and coin makers. Asian stocks fell on Wednesday after the US Federal Reserve cited international risks to the American economy and oil slumped below $45 per barrel. Japan's Nikkei was down by 124.03 points or 0.70% to close at 17,671. And Hong Kong's Hang Seng lost 54.53 points or 0.22% to end the trading at 24,861. Moving on to some sports news now, the semi-final lineup of the men's and women's singles in the Australian Open tennis has been drawn. In the men's event, defending champion Stan Wawrinka beat Kei Nishikori and set up a semi-final clash with Novak Djokovic. Djokovic defeated 8th-seeded Canadian Milos Raonic. Andy Murray and Thomas Berdych are already safely into a semi-final showdown after beating Nick Kyrgios and Rafael Nadal. In the women's singles, top seed Serena Williams got the better of Dominika Cibulkova in the quarterfinals match. Serena now meets unseeded US teenager Madison Keys today. Keys had defeated the other Williams sister Venus in the quarterfinals. Longtime rival Maria Sharapova made the last four yesterday and will face fellow Russian Ekaterina Makarova.
To eventually prevail in a tug-of-war three-setter and keep her fairy tale dream alive.
And now to some other news from sporting arenas across the world in our sports beat. Liana Pace and Sania Mirza reached the mixed double semi-finals after they won their respective matches on Wednesday. Top-seeded duo Sania and Bruno Suarez marched into the semis after beating unseeded local pair Casey Jalekwa and John Pierce 6-2, 6-2. In a late evening match, Pace partnering veteran Martina Hingis of Switzerland defeated the Czech-Australian combined of Andrea Lavakova and Alexander Peya 6-3, 6-1 at the Rod Laver Arena. Former Portugal international Luis Figo said on Wednesday that he wanted to stand for the FIFA presidency, revealing his plans one day before nominations closed to enter the race. The former Real Madrid and Barcelona forward announced his intention to run against incumbent Sepp Blatter in an interview with CNN and said he had the 5 nominations needed for an official campaign. Figo was twice voted World Player of the Year and played for Portugal 127 times. Real Madrid star Cristiano Ronaldo was handed a 2-game suspension on Wednesday following his red card in the 2-1 win over Cordoba at the La Liga weekend. The prolific striker lost his temper in the closing stages of the game after failing to make an impact, kicking out and raising a hand to strike Cordoba defender Edimar in the face, leaving referee Alejandro Hernandez no other choice but to dismiss him. And finally, of course, the massive snow blizzard in northeastern US brought life to a halt in many areas, but some did make the most of the snow, like these red pandas at the Trevor Zoo in New York. I'm going to leave you with these visuals. Have a good day.